Hi, everyone, and welcome to the One Podcast. Okay, my guest today, I love her. And I know before I have said I'm excited about this guest today, but I'm thrilled because let me tell you my version of Kyra. I very first met Kyra in a group. We signed up together. We didn't know each other. We ended up in this group of 52 women. Most of us didn't know each other at all. We were together for 2 years and we met in person live in Tulum 2.5, almost 3 years ago, maybe
I would
longer.
say.
Yeah. And when I met her, I was so intimidated. What I love about her, there's so many things I love, and she doesn't know anything I'm going to say, so I'm just letting loose. She is herself no matter what, no matter the situation, the people, no matter the environment. She has learned total self confidence in a way that really intimidated me because I had never understood it on that level. And what I also loved is there's so much reality to what she has lived. She has created this wild amount of success for herself while also living some of the hardest challenges in life. And as I got to know her, I had such deep, profound respect for how you could become this woman having faced all of this and then still not question yourself the way that I would. And she's just been this role model to me in a way that I'm sure she doesn't even comprehend. So we have a lot of fun things to talk about today, but I want to
I'm like,
introduce you.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
I love Kyra Kacey. Welcome to the show. We are so excited to have you here. And I would love for you to jump in and tell a little bit about your background so people who don't know you can learn a little bit about how you became an online coach. And then we'll jump into some specifics and some things that I want to highlight on you.
Let's go. Yeah, it's such a loaded question, right? Where do I even begin? I've been in personal development, as you know, since I was 17 years old. I'm now 37. So I've had such an early head start compared to a lot of people. And I'm so grateful for that. But I also know that there's been such a purpose behind that for the work that I'm here to do. So you were mentioning the self-confidence and having moved through a lot of challenges in life. And so I think context for people can be important because oftentimes we highlight the fact that I went from debt to building this seven-figure business and this beautiful brand that I'm obsessed with, but people don't necessarily know what it took to get here. And I think sometimes that's really helpful to bridge that gap for people because we're all
Absolutely.
navigating something. We're all going through a challenge. So for me, some of the things that I've navigated, and I think you know all of this, Lisa,
Yeah.
but I would say some of the bigger things. So, like 15, I was sexually assaulted by three men. I healed from that completely at 19. And when I say healed from that, fully complete, I can love these men. I could hug them just free, completely liberated. I overcame addiction at a very early age, and I've navigated two divorces and infidelity with my first husband. So I've just been through it. As you know, I lost my sister. I think it was like the week before we had our first call in that mastermind. My sister unexpectedly passed away. So life has definitely come at me in many different ways, but it's never stopped me from getting to where I am today.
That's what I have loved is, and I remember being quickly drawn to you because we had lost my brother unexpectedly. And a lot of people lose your siblings. We all experience death, but when it's an unexpected death, it catches you off guard and you sometimes feel alone. And when you've experienced that, you feel like you're in this club nobody wants to be in some ways because people don't
Yeah.
know what to say to you. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they don't care, they just don't know what to say. And so I remember thinking, oh man, I've been there. This sucks. And you guys were so, so close. And she
Yeah.
has a son, right? She has a
Yeah.
son
Yeah.
that you
He
were
just
close
turned
with.
16 last week.
My
Yeah. Time
God.
flies.
Yes. And I remember thinking you loved dogs. So right away I was like, oh, I like her. She is my people. We were together through one of your divorces. And I thought, how, and you're 37. How is this
Yeah.
even? I was such a
No,
shit show in
I
my
know.
20s and 30s. The wisdom inside you. And there's so many parts of your story that I want to talk about. What do you think, looking back now, where you can actually connect? Okay, I have lived through it all so far. Do you think it was an internal confidence, a will to survive? Do you think it was a big vision ahead? or a combination? What do you think was it, the thing that always continued to push you forward? So many people would stop at one of those, but you
You know,
continually.
I feel like I always feel like I've never been normal. I was in elementary school having no desire to be there. I didn't care about math. I didn't care about anything that we were studying. I wanted nothing to do with it. I
Mhm.
remember in middle elementary school being like, I want to know why adults are telling me that everything is okay, but I'm feeling the opposite of that. So I'm very psychic. I have a very open channel. I've been like that since I was born. So I was more interested in human emotions than I was history. I did not want to know about history. I never cared about the past. So I think just from a very early age, there was this sense of the world and what was possible versus what I was experiencing. And even the lack that my family experienced financially, I would remember being like, it's this can't be as good as it gets. And so I was always in question about what I was experiencing from a very, very early age. And then on the other side of that, I would say that there's always been this fighter in me, this warrior spirit. And I don't know if that's just because my dad's side of the family, literally, my grandpa was a fighter. He taught me to fight. I've done 3 main events for kickboxing. And so there's just also that part of me that just naturally is a fighter. But on
Yes.
the other hand, I'm very, very spiritual. So I just tell people like I can sit down and meditate for hours, but I can also put my gloves on and fight in the ring, you know?
Yes, such a badass. You're so well rounded. I mean, you've been to how many Dr. Joe events? Are you at 20 already?
My next one will be 20. Yeah.
20
Yeah.
Dr. Joe events, and you could kick anybody's ass tomorrow. And you do. You hear voices, you're all about wealth. I mean, there's so many aspects to who you are. And I had screenshot this quote. I went digging back through, and this is
Oh,
perfect. No,
no.
it's good. You'll love it. Because
No,
you
I want to hear
actually, you just hinted to it, but you had said, if you see somebody that you admire, you should ask them the question, what does it cost to be you? I really want people to hear that. If you see someone that you admire, you should ask them the question, what does it cost to be you? And you said underneath, if you want my success or someone else's, you better want the initiations because one doesn't come without the other. You don't get the wisdom without the chaos, the loss, the nights you think might take you out, the kind of nights where your faith is the only thread holding you together, where everything familiar dissolves so something greater can be born. That is so true. We look at people and we want what they have, or we look at people and it triggers us that, oh, they can have that and I can't. We either get jealous or we rule ourselves out really quickly. And instead, you are so clear in the fact that so many times we don't pay attention to what the cost was to get them there. If you want that level, you've got to pay attention to what does it take to get there and am I willing to do it? Not am I capable? We're all
Yeah.
capable, but
Yeah.
am
Am
I
I willing? Yeah.
willing? I loved this. So what
Everyone wants the view at the top, but not everybody wants the climb. But that quote actually came because I was one of the new chapters that I added into the book. So RICH, the acronym, H is healing for the highest good. And one of the things that I've experienced a lot when I moved my business online, there was a lot of duality and a lot of kickback and a lot of upset around my self-expression. So whether people would say, put on a bra, or cover yourself up or whatever that was, right? I was very triggering for people. And it wasn't that I was meaning to be, I was just being myself. But one of the things I talked about in there was I wonder if it would have been more acceptable, if my self expression and my self confidence would have been more acceptable for people if they knew that I overcame an addiction to cutting. Because if they knew my story, they would see that I've got scars all over my body, all over my arms, my stomach. I literally have the word hate like carved above my belly button from when I was a teenager. So it's like I always tell people I can only know this amount of self love because I knew the flip side and I overcame that. So for me, I don't take it personal when people are triggered or they're judging me or whatever that is, or however my self expression makes them uncomfortable, because I get it. There was a version of me many, many years ago that could relate to that.
I remember hearing about the cutting. I did not know about the hate. That breaks my heart. And it's an interesting thing. I'm glad you brought that up because I contemplate this before my interviews. And I always think if people didn't know the backside, if people didn't know the pain that you lived, would they give you all the credit for everything that you deserve? Because I feel like sometimes it is, people don't completely celebrate those who look like they made it there easy. So if your story has some rough points and has some challenges, then we celebrate you. Oh, you overcame so much. I don't think there's any life that has been completely easy. But I always want to find that happy balance, because there's a part of me that thinks you shouldn't have to keep telling the story in order for people to be okay with and or celebrate where you've made it. And yet it is part of the story that got you there. And there is something absolutely amazing when someone can overcome those things. So I always sit with that balance as I'm about to interview someone and think, okay, how much of their story needs to be told?
I think context can be good, but I think there's a difference between storytelling where somebody's not resolved and then just
Yes.
sharing, like, this is a fact. Here's where I am today, right? You can always tell when somebody's not actually free from a past experience. Whereas
Yes.
for me, I actually have people that get, I understand it, but I've had a lot of people get really upset because, I don't offer trigger warnings. And I talk about my sexual assault, like I talk about ordering a pizza. Like it's just that casual for me. And it's not to have disrespect to the conversation or, the reality that many women and men have experienced that. It's just that I'm so free from it that there is no emotional charge when I talk about it. And I honestly want that to be a new standard for healing for everybody. So I'm not going to apologize about it. When somebody says they're sorry that I went through that, I'm not. I wouldn't change anything about my past,
Oh,
but I
see,
also understand it.
and that is another thing about you that I've always been fascinated by, is that you can see both sides. You can have someone come at you with all sorts of judgment and criticism, and you can actually be compassionate. You see their point of view, and you have this gigantic capacity to love and to understand it. And I remember thinking, she's not even triggered by the fact that person said so many hateful things, and she understands and forgives. I don't personally love trigger warnings. I think we should all be adult enough to be able to handle that someone living a story doesn't mean that I have to have an emotional attachment to it. And if someone else can heal from something wildly traumatic, I believe it should inspire us that we could heal from our own traumatic things.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it's life doesn't give you a trigger warning. So I always say if you're driving down the freeway and the car in front of you gets smashed by a semi and you witness somebody die, like, where's your trigger warning for that? So I think my approach to it is more like in the real world, I want to have people be equipped. And if you need a trigger warning and you don't get one and that upsets you, then that would mean that you're a victim to those circumstances. So, for example, I know for me, when I hadn't yet healed from the sexual assault, I remember anytime I would hear somebody use the word rape. So I don't know if you've ever heard a man before be like, oh, they raped me or the bank raped me. I used to hear that a lot. And I used to get so angry and I would be so judgmental and I'd be really upset. It triggered me. And now, again, this was before I healed at
Yeah.
19, but still, I'm a teenager having these
Right.
thoughts, these conversations. And I remember going, if everybody in the world has to be sensitive to me, or I need people to show up or speak a certain way, I'm in trouble here because I can't control the way people talk, but I can actually get to a point of being healed where I'm not even in judgment of the person using those words. I can just understand we're all at a different point of consciousness and evolution, and like that gets to be okay.
You have an evolved way of thinking that if we all felt this way and thought this way, then it would change every relationship around us. And I sometimes think we don't take a moment to take a step back and really consider it's, I believe, and obviously you do, and you'll word it differently and probably more powerfully, in the fact that I'm allowed to think and say and feel whatever I want. And I'm allowed to honor that. And I'm allowed to express that. And I should, because there's only one of me. I get the right to have all these feelings and thoughts and beliefs. And at the same time, so does the person next to me. And so does the
Yeah.
person down the street. In my opinion, I don't have the right to tell them how they should behave or what they should think, or that their thoughts and their beliefs and their words that come out of their mouth are less important or less valuable than mine. What makes me more right than them, or more acceptable, or more important, or that my way of doing it is better? And so taking that to what you were just saying, if someone wants to be reactive to something, that's fine, but I don't need to change the way I behave. And you have another quote that I love. Oh, yes. If my truth disrupts you, that's an invitation for your growth, not a reason for me to shrink or change who I am. And I really would love for any listener or any viewer to sit with that, because there is this fine line where someone will hear that and say, well, then I'll just say whatever the bleep I want to whatever I
Yeah,
want.
but that's common. That's
Yes.
like when you hear people like, "Oh, I told them." It's like, no, you didn't. You actually just word vomited all over them. There's a difference between word vomit and a powerful conversation that leaves both parties complete. And one of the like where that quote came from for me was like when I first moved my business online, I was doing a lot of psychic readings,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a lot of people that would come into my DMs. They would come onto my lives, and they would tell me I was doing the devil's work and all this stuff. And I never was offended by that. I would never try to change somebody's mind. I'm so okay with people thinking that because that's their truth. There's plenty of people that believe in the work that I do or
Yeah.
have the same consciousness around it, whatever that is. And so I feel like if somebody comes at me and they're, hey, you're doing the devil's work, I'm just, okay. I don't even defend it. There's nothing to say. That gets to be their truth, and my truth gets to be my truth. I'm not here to debate. I'm also not here to change anybody's mind.
I sometimes think, especially when it comes to online, did that person ask for your opinion? Like, why are we offering our opinions on so many things? That person didn't ask for it. So, why go spew something that you hate or dislike to someone about their work, the way they're doing things, what they believe? They didn't ask for it. Why do we feel entitled to tell you that I hate what you're doing or you're doing it wrong when no one really asked for your opinion anyway? And I'm not saying that to be rude, but that's like walking over to your next door neighbor's house, knocking on their door, and just telling them that the way you grow your apple tree is stupid. Why not choose, okay, if I'm going to go online for any reason, why not use that as a, you inspire me, I resonate with you, what you say makes me think differently in a positive way, and the things that don't, let it slide on by. Why invest any of your time in any of that? And if it is something that triggers you, because I do remember you went through that phase of the naked coach, and I was like, okay, this is a new thing for me because I was raised religious, and I'm like, I'm not going to show my things to anybody. And I remember sitting with that being so brave. It was such a good thing for me to watch that phase of you, because it was a confidence I didn't have. It was different than I would have done things. And yet there was this little tiny part of me that was like, wouldn't it have been fun to be her? I mean, it would be fun to walk down the street with some tassels on and see what everybody said and not
Oh,
give
there
a
were
shit.
people were so mad that I did that. They were so mad. It was like I could feel the energetic daggers from women, like the audacity to walk down, what was it, Broadway in Nashville with just tassels on in broad daylight. But the naked coach was more than just about the physical body. In fact, that was just like such a tiny part of it, but it was really about full transparency, because my belief is that our business and our wealth is an extension of us and who we're being. And what I've seen in the online coaching space is that there's so many women that are not actually allowing for their full authentic self-expression to be the extension of their business. There's so many things they're doing they don't want to do. They don't actually feel good. And so for me, it was, let's take a stand, because the way that I've created my business was literally allowing myself to be the most authentic, fully expressed version of me. I didn't drop out of college 2 years into a psychology degree to then move online and have people tell me what to wear or how to run my business.
Yes. And that's another thing that I really admire about you. For anyone who doesn't know her, every iteration of you is fully lived and fully expressed. You dive into, this is who I want to be right now. This is how I'm feeling. This is what I want to do. Then when you're done with that phase, you move on to something else. But all of it embodies who you are. And there are some of us that as we get older, we look back like, oh my sweet Jesus, what was I thinking? And I wish we didn't, because all of that becomes this version. I have always admired your bravery and your wisdom and your full embodiment, so much younger than me. And it's been something that's been freeing to know you. And it's been all encompassing in every element of your work. One of the things that I want to talk about as a part of your work is I have the original and you have the new. So she's got this incredible book. Of course, I highlighted a couple things for this. So tell us where the book came from. Tell us how this all came about.
Yeah, it's funny. So, Rich Bitch Money Goals, I wanted to take everything that really allowed me to create success in my life and in my business and just put it into a book. This has been years in the making because I had the first edition done. I landed obviously a publishing deal. The second edition just came out. But Rich Bitch is an acronym. They are 9 principles. It's like the foundation of the work that we do inside of my community to literally create change. Every single acronym for Rich Bitch is necessary. I could have a conversation with any person and be like, this is what you're missing based on those 9 principles. And so that's really where it stems from. Like the R in Rich stands for personal responsibility. So for me to overcome the experiences that I had, it's like you might not have been responsible for the wounds that were caused, but you're left with them. And now it's your responsibility to heal them or not. And I always tell people, you don't have to change. Like your life as it stands right now is not bad. However, it is giving you a certain experience of yourself. And so if the experience that you're currently in is not what you ultimately want, then that would mean that something has to change. And I like to make that clear for people because you don't have to forgive someone. You don't have to get over it. You don't have to do the things that I've done. But I wanted a roadmap for people to literally have the exact steps and the foundation that has created change in my life. And I use it every single day.
Oh, it's so good.
You got to get the second edition. It's
I
better.
know. This is how I knew you, right? So I want the new one. I'm definitely, we're going to include the links because obviously, and I forgot on the podcast, I'm actually holding up the book, but it's called Rich Bitch Money Goals, Becoming the Energetic Match to Wealth. And so I have the first edition, but the second one is even better. But what you were just saying, that is the responsibility is the foundation of literally everything. You have to take personal responsibility for everything in your life. There were 2 things that I thought, okay, these everyone can relate to. Duality of abundance, and how you tell this story about how you take your nephew and his friend to go get donuts.
Yep.
And you know what? I'm just going to read the first page because people,
Sure.
if you're a parent that has ever talked about money in front of your children, I want you to hear this. So she said, I was taking a nap in the middle of the afternoon one day when my doorbell rang and woke me up. I opened the security cameras on my phone to see my 14-year-old nephew standing on my porch with 2 of his friends. My schedule was clear and the rest of the afternoon, so his unannounced visit provided me the opportunity to drive him and his friends to Mochi Dough, a place that sells mouth-watering Japanese donuts, which makes me hungry, by the way. I placed our order on the touch screen. As I was checking out, one of his friends noticed the total amount of our order for 1 dozen donuts and 3 boba teas and said with disbelief, $55 for donuts? What a ripoff. As we drove home, I couldn't stop thinking about the programming my nephew's friend, a boy who is only in middle school, already had around money, and his automatic response was one that immediately turned abundance into lack. And I thought, you know what? For any parent, that is such a prime example of it could be true that in this specific family, we wouldn't go spend $55 on donuts. It could be true that in this specific family, we don't have $55 to frivolously spend on donuts. But the comments that come out of our mouth from the time children are so little is forming their beliefs around money that they're going to carry for the rest of their lives.
Yeah,
And
you can already predict his programming. He's living it. A 14-year-old doesn't come to the conclusion on his own that $55 is a ripoff for donuts. That is programming. That is what he heard. He turned abundance into lack. That is conditioning. That is programming. And that is his money mindset.
yeah, and he doesn't even know how to make $55 at this point in time normally, right? So we
Yeah.
don't clearly understand what 55 is, and then we don't understand it's a lack. So for anybody who's listening, what would be a quick shift or an awareness that they could start with today? I'm going to start catching everything I'm saying about money. But if they truly think there is a lack, or if circumstances are
Yeah.
tight, what's something they could do right now to help shift that?
I think the biggest thing is starting to look at where we really do on a daily basis turn abundance into lack. So you've literally got people that have a home, they've got a car, and yet it's not enough. They're constantly stacking what they don't have and then feeling lack versus stacking what they do and then creating more of the things that they actually want. Listen, broke is a situation. You can change broke. Just like poor is oftentimes a mindset. You can change that too. People often don't realize what they're actually focusing on and how they're growing that. Because I always say you're an energetic match to something. The question is what?
Yes. And what she means is actually take the time to look around you. If you're driving right now, you have a car. You have a car that runs. You have the money to put gas in your car. You have the money to stop and get lunch. You have the money to actually buy groceries and make yourself a lunch. You have a home to go home to, whether you're renting or you own it. You have food on the table. You have friends. You have family. There's so many things that we forget to be grateful for, big and little. When you get home, you actually have a number of different clothes to choose from every single day. You have art on the walls. There's so many things that we can look at as abundance, and instead we're consistently focusing on the wish that we had more. Or if you're living paycheck to paycheck, the paycheck comes in and then it goes right back out, and there's a whole process. I mean, this book that she has written, okay, Rich Bitch Money Goals, everyone should read this book with the black cover, because
Yes, that one's not even available anymore. You can't even get that.
Because it's going to go up in value, and I'm going to be like, I had an original.
I wouldn't sell that any, like, this one's too good.
But I still love it because it's special to me. So I have an
Good.
original. It's like an original art piece of art, and then go get the new one, available on Amazon. But the way she talks about money, the way she talks about wealth, the way she actually connects it in such real experiences, because I did that 21-day experience you had.
Yeah.
And I loved when you were reading the chapters and I was laughing along with all of your stories. And then every example you give is so realistic because you've lived it all. You see the experience everywhere. And I think some people couldn't jump right to your level of understanding and your level of connection with energy and clarity on thought and manifestation. However, you make it very applicable in every circumstance. And it's not challenging. It's small, simple shifts. It's a focus of attention. It's pay attention to this and do this instead. Speak this way. Look at that. What would you say if you had to pick one or two of your favorite parts of the book? What would you say are your favorite? It's so hard.
I would say there's like four that are my absolute favorite. The first chapter, Kim, that's obviously my favorite chapter. I titled that after my sister. I'm defining wealth in a new way. Wealth is an experience we have of ourselves. It's not reflected as the dollar amount in our bank account. One of my new favorite chapters is on pleasure. Of the chapter on the Ponzi scheme, because that was such a financial initiation for me, like releasing 80,000 and then realizing I'm part of a $3 million Ponzi scheme. Like it was like one of my greatest lessons in wealth. And really, I wanted to be able to embody wealth independent of what I did or didn't have in my bank account. And I realized if I only feel wealthy based on this number, I'm fucked. I got to know how to feel that when I have nothing. And so I love that chapter. Car, I don't know. I love so many of them.
Well, and I'm only laughing because I too have experienced a Ponzi scheme and was not very happy when it happened. However, it still is currently going on, and $450 million, and I lost over 200K. And
okay, congratulations.
Right. And okay, so let's go there. For everyone who's ever lost money, this is a beautiful lesson. What I learned from that experience, whether you've lost $5,000 in something, $200, or hundreds of thousands of dollars, this is one of the greatest gifts that's ever happened in my life. A little different than yours, because at the time when it happened, I realized, okay, I can keep freaking out. And I did. I said the F word, I don't even know how many hundreds of times, and I couldn't believe it happened. I called the police and the FBI, all of that. And then within about a week, I started to realize, okay, wait a minute. So you're going to have all this judgment on yourself. I thought, why was my intuition not leading me on that? How could I have missed that? How could I have let that go? And I realized, wait a minute, you're coaching women and you've never lost money. How are you going to be able to coach anyone who's lost $2,000 on a training package, or $25,000 to a coach that they didn't like, or a business investment that didn't go well? So if the universe provides you a loss of over 200K,
Listen, people get pissed off over a $10 salad they eat and don't
Right.
like, okay?
Yes. And I remember thinking, okay, if I can live through this, anyone can live through anything. And the greatest lesson for me was I realized, all right, on that year, there was one day, 1 hour of one day of May something of 2022, I lost money. And I can either let that 1 hour of that one day poison 364 other days and every day after that, or I can let that experience live on that one day. And then it allowed me to also look at, okay, if I could lose that and be fine, then I could handle basically anything. And so it was such a gift to me to experience that, although I didn't think I would have chosen it. Obviously, I did, but it turned the way I saw everything. And so if you haven't lost money, wait for your opportunity. And then if you have, let's look at this differently. Tell us a little bit about how you came to your conclusion.
Well, I'm a little bit different. So if I take the R in rich, which is personal responsibility, I had a conversation with myself before I invested that 80,000. And the conversation I asked myself was this: Kyra, can you be okay whether you get your 200% return in 9 months and this is amazing, or it's the biggest scam you ever fell for? I needed to know that I could be okay no matter what, because if I couldn't be okay with worst case scenario, then I didn't deserve best case scenario. So I actually went through that process with myself and I said, yeah, because first of all, if I made it once, I can make it again. So there was also that, but I really allowed myself to be okay. Most people are not okay unless things go according to what they perceive to be successful or the greatest outcome.
Mhm.
And when that's the case, 9 out of 10 times people are fucked because they haven't taken responsibility for the other potentials that may or may not occur. So I asked myself that question. The answer was yes. I invested the money. And when I was starting to get these emails, like I never even got the first check that I was supposed to get the following month. And when I started to get those emails, I was just okay with it. I just knew the money was coming into my life, whether it was through the vehicle of the investment or it was something else. And I ended up making way more money in my business than I ever would have from that investment. The beauty of it too was when I released that 80,000 the following month, I had an $80,000 month in my business, which at the time was my highest cash month in business. And so I know that wouldn't have been possible had I been in a place of fear.
Yes.
There's no way.
Yeah, constricted by the loss. That's where we poison ourselves, is not realizing either one, there's a constriction around the loss and the trying to get the money back, or there's the judgment in the loss. I remember I analyzed that situation because I was concerned with my intuition. I thought, how did I miss this? Then I realized there was a day my intuition said, pull the money out. I remember it specifically. And then I decided to leave the money in. There was a clear intuitive moment. And I was actually grateful that it went that way so that I could learn this lesson. It's allowed me to shrink everything in my life. If anything goes wrong, it happened in this 1 hour of this one day. And that doesn't
Yeah.
get to poison everything else. I remember we were in that group when you had that $80,000 month, and I was like, what? Hey,
Yeah.
universe, I want that quick return too. I want to believe in
But
myself that way. Mhm.
my intuition said to do it as well. That's
Yes.
the thing. And it wasn't
No, it wasn't wrong.
to look a certain way. They can get confused with it. But I know for me, it was like, yes, do this. You're safe. This is going to be one of the greatest lessons that you can learn and embody and integrate. And it was. So, like, to this day, fuck yeah, I would do it all over again. I wouldn't change a single thing about that.
Yes. And what I love about your experience is you took the time to confirm with yourself, I'm okay either way. You looked at all the possibilities and you said, I'm okay either way. And I hadn't done that. I didn't have the foresight to do that. And I think that is a brilliant way to choose for people listening to look at when you're moving forward with any sort of investment. First of all, when you're investing in yourself, expect a little bit of fear. But can you live with the outcome no matter what that outcome is? Then you'll be okay either way. I love the way you did it. I just had not even considered the other outcome. I thought I'd done
Yeah.
enough to protect myself, and then I went into judgment. And I was grateful for that experience too, because I was
Yeah.
able to forgive myself. So I loved that. And then let's talk about your other favorite chapter, pleasure.
Pleasure.
Yeah. Because
Oh,
Kyra knows pleasure, ladies and
you
men.
know what's funny? Actually, I will tell you. Oh my God, I just opened right up to it.
Hmm.
Let me tell you this because I'll just read something really quickly because
I
you'll
love
like
it.
this.
You're great.
Okay, a few months after leaving my marriage, I boarded a flight to Mexico bound for Tulum, where I would finally meet 17 extraordinary women in person. A sisterhood forged through a year of deep masterminding online. Ironically, it was the very program I had invested 5 figures in, only to lie on the intake form, too afraid to face the truth because I knew that speaking it would mean being held accountable to it. It was the third and final question on the form that stopped me in my tracks. Most importantly, in exactly 1 year from today, what would have had to have changed, both personally and professionally, for you to feel like this had been a life altering experience? I knew the answer instantly, and it had nothing to do with money. If things don't change with my husband, I need to leave my marriage. Well, the long story short is I didn't say that. I made it about money instead. And I said, I want to hit my first 6 figure month, which was a true statement, but not the thing that was actually going to change my life. And so basically, in that chapter, I'm talking about pleasure and what it means to have pleasure in your life, because I think we have a lot of really wealthy people in the world that are void of pleasure, just like we have a lot of really broke people that are void of pleasure. So I go into the beautiful experience that I have had since leaving my second marriage and what it has been like to actually experience pleasure that is just unrestrained with another
Oh,
human and within myself. So sexual pleasure, 100%.
I had goosebumps while you were reading that because I haven't heard that chapter and I could feel that inside me. Number one, pleasure is linked to everything in life. If you have pleasure, you don't care so much about money. And if you have money with no pleasure, it's not the same. If you don't have pleasure in your career, then you don't really enjoy your career. So pleasure is such an important thing that I don't think we talk about enough. And pleasure can be different for every person. You can have pleasure inside your marriage if you choose it and redecide and go for it and work on some things, and then pleasure outside of your marriage. You've embodied pleasure in so many aspects of life. Tell us more about how you know this. It is a part of who you are.
It is, but I was void of that in my marriage. I'm in this chapter, I am specifically speaking to sexual pleasure. For a
Mm-hmm.
woman to actually experience an orgasm, to experience pleasure in her body by herself, with her partner, whoever, there was a lot of pleasure in a lot of areas in my life. But when it came to my marriage, like that was pretty void and pretty dry. And when I left that, I was on this journey for myself to really experience pleasure for myself first. I had this desire not to get into a relationship. I really wanted to spend a year being single and being lonely on the nights I felt lonely. I didn't go on any dating apps. I didn't do any of that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. But I didn't want to fill the void. I wanted time to be single. And so I took that time. It was absolutely amazing. I had some really great hookups. Some not so much. I had a lot of fun. I had a
Yeah.
really good time. But then I met somebody completely unexpected and somebody I never imagined that I would even spend time with. And the pleasure that I've received from this person has been on another level. And what I've discovered is that the pleasure that's in the bedroom, which is like insane, is actually because the pleasure outside of the bedroom is insane. And when a woman is not being met outside of the bedroom, it's hard for her to really meet herself fully inside of the bedroom. And I can say that this is the first time in my 37 years on this planet where I just feel like sex has transcended dimensions. It's
Oh,
been amazing.
oh,
And this man, listen, there's a difference between we all want to be loved, but there's something to be said when you are just adored and desired on a whole nother level. Like it's just been incredible.
I love this, and we're going to just have to go there. I'm lucky enough. I know people don't always see it as lucky, but I've never gotten married, and I have chosen to be single for a long time and chosen relationships sometimes, chosen single other times. It has been such a journey for me through what I want, when I want it, when am I lonely, when am I not, what am I looking for, and allowing yourself that exploration. You can allow it in your marriage, you can allow it out. But I think what you're saying is really an important thing for people to contemplate today. Am I experiencing pleasure in my current circumstances? And how do I start to turn that around? And one thing that I really wanted to focus on that you just said is pleasure outside first, and then you have pleasure inside the bedroom and being adored, being cherished, being wanted, being desired.
Respected, loved, like
Yes.
the emotional intelligence. And part of it too is I'm an energetic. So if you know anything about the erotic blueprints, if you don't know anything, go take the quiz, find out what you are. But I'm an energetic. So for me, it's energy is everything. That is a big turn on for me. I've met a lot of really handsome men where I'm like, never would I in a million years get into bed with them because their energy, no thanks, not for me. Right. Yeah. Having somebody in my world that just, I can't think of a single thing like it's all check, 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 check. Like it's, but part of that too is the standards that I brought in. So when I like, because a lot of people find themselves getting out of a relationship and getting back into one right away to
Right.
fill a void. And because they haven't actually given themselves an opportunity to heal. Now, healing doesn't have to take a year. You don't have to take a
Yeah.
year single.
Yeah.
But if we don't actually take the time to really be clear about the kind of relationship that we want to experience next, really look at what was missing, what wasn't working in this last one, what wasn't a 10 out of 10. Most people are not doing that. So I sat down and this is the 10 out of 10 for me. I'm going to manifest this. And I am not settling for a 7 out of 10. I'm not doing an 8 out of 10. It's a 10 out of 10. And if it's not that, it's not it. And I was given many opportunities to settle for a 9 out of 10, an 8 out of 10. I said, not doing that. So I also think there's this initiation for women to go through. You
Mhm.
have to feel worthy enough to choose yourself and stand for that 10 out of 10. And that's it.
Ooh, I want to go down two paths here for listeners and viewers. And I don't care how long this takes. If you got time, we're going there because this is so
Let's
good.
go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay. So, two things that I think are important. Let's go down the path of you're in a current relationship or a marriage and you're not feeling pleasure and you don't want to leave. And we don't want to judge the partner because you're not feeling it. What are your recommendations for this person who's, okay, I want to turn this up. I want to transform this. I don't want to leave it. And I don't want to have resentment. What can I do as a woman first to start turning this around?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really important that you have pleasure within yourself. You're happy with your purpose, your business, your life, your body, your workouts, your health, like all of that matters. And if you're not taking care of you and you don't feel good about you and you're hoping that your husband or your partner or whoever, your girlfriend is going to fix that, like that's the first thing to look at. I also think it's really important to recognize that we can't change other people. And
Mm.
so for me, I got to this point in my previous marriage where I had asked him so many times, like, hey, will you come to this event with me? I was the only one doing the work, personal development, and I've been doing this for many years. So
Oh,
for me to be in a marriage with somebody that had no interest in personal development, they were in a completely different world, it just wasn't working. And I excused that for a really long time. And I realized they actually don't need to change. I just need to recognize that this isn't it for me. And he didn't have a desire to change. I tried. So when that happened, it was I now have to choose. I either choose this marriage and settle for it and stop complaining, or I do something about it. And for me, this is not as good as it gets for me. I'm going to do something about it. And was it painful? Fuck yeah. It was incredibly painful.
yeah.
But there's something on the other side of our pain, of our fear, of our regret, of our uncertainty. There's something worth it on the other side of that.
I totally agree. And I would say for those that are not necessarily trying to change everything about him and do find a lot of satisfaction in the marriage, go to what she was saying about getting your own pleasure. What are the things that light you up? Where do you find joy? Where do you find happiness in your body, outside of your body? Are you living a fulfilling life? If you fill all of those things, number one, that's highly attractive to a man. A woman lit up is very attractive to a man. So if that doesn't naturally start to shift your partner, then we want to start looking at, okay, wait a minute, I'm doing all of these things. And then another thing that I want to emphasize too is open communication. A lot of us
Yeah.
women are not taught this is what works for me. This is what feels good for me. And the positive reinforcement when they're trying to make it right and trying to navigate those new paths. I do want to add in from a man's perspective really quickly. It is, as it is for women, but a little different for men, it's highly sensitive and displeasing, insulting, like really slams their self-confidence to know I'm not pleasing my partner. So once they jump in and they try something and it seems to work, a lot aren't like venturing out to try new things just in case it doesn't work and then I look stupid or I look like a failure. And men don't get to, in commonplace, sit in these conversations. So it's not like they can go to their buddy and be like, dude, this isn't working out with my wife anymore. I need to try something new. What do you guys try? They don't have these conversations like women do. They do, but it's not as common. So we want to be first happy in ourselves, then open communication. And in the open communication, a lot of reinforcement on what they're doing right. And then expanding on what they're doing right. And then if this is not working, I've gone through breakups where I swore that man was perfect for me. He was a 10. It was ideal. And when that ends, there is no way, whether you believe in God, the spirit, universe, whatever you want to call it, you don't meet a 10 to then have to settle for a 6.5.
Yeah,
it doesn't
totally
work that way. You only end up with a 6.5 if you choose that this is what I deserve, this is what I'm going to get, this is what I'm going to settle for. What I've found the older I get is what was compatible with me at 25, 35, 45, even at 50. There's a different, better man waiting for me at 52 that is ideal for the 52-year-old version of Lisa. So there is a level 10 at a certain age. If he was a 10 when you met him, he was a perfect 10 for you at that age. And if that doesn't work out, and there's another 10 waiting for you if you're choosing that growth and that happiness and that joy, right? She was very clear on what she wanted. She was becoming the woman that guy was looking for too. You can't just do a menu order of, these are the things I want from my Mr. Perfect, but I'm not going to do the work.
Yeah, and you also have to be willing to create space for that, right? So I think a lot of women, the initiation is like having that 8 out of 10. And it's like there's things that are familiar, like probably not this. And so there has to be that willingness to let go, to take a stand for something greater. It's
Yes.
hard.
And
If it were easy, everybody would do it.
I had saved in your book when you were talking about same thing, that you have to create the space readily available for the arrival of manifestations. And same thing in pleasure. You have to decide what you want. You have to get yourself into a really good place and then creating that space. You're right. Not filling the emptiness and filling the loneliness. I remember I had been talking with a man a couple years ago, and he had said, I shouldn't complain because I got what I wanted. I got what I asked for. And right in my mind, yeah, but did she get what she wanted in that relationship? And I realized that we don't always ask that. I'm looking for what I want. And am I what that person is looking for? Kyra's been doing all the work all along. So she's just like, hey, I'm ready. Whenever you're going to find me, I am the 10. And I got some space right here available for you. And I'm not filling it with some fill in the meantime.
Listen, this guy will literally unprompted just send me a text, or when he's here, he'll ask me, I want to sit down and ask you, is there anything that I could improve on in this relationship? And I'm like, were you what? Yes, let's have a conversation. Like, it's just the emotional intelligence is so attractive, and the ability to have just really strong, healthy communication has been on another level.
There are men that just get this, they do the work, but I don't want you to rule out someone who doesn't, because a man would be so attracted to that too. If you've got someone who is a 9 and he's just kind of given up on himself, or he's been buried in work, or he hasn't realized the elevating of the relationship, you can turn some of this around. And to be able to initiate, hey, I am loving where we're at, and I would like to take this a little higher. And I feel like if we have more open communication, more fun together, we're going to be able to work this. But you're right, that, oh my goodness, emotional intelligence.
Well, I always say, I'm not here to catch anyone up to speed. I did that. I tried that. Here's what I tell women: stop marrying potential.
Oh, yes.
Stop it. Stop doing that. Listen, there's a lot of people that have a lot of fucking potential that have no desire to reach it. So my whole thing when I left my second marriage was, I am not catching anybody up to speed. Like, you're either flying with me or you're trying damn hard to keep up. And so that was really something too, that was a standard I set for myself.
And from the flip side of that, men don't marry potential. They marry the woman that they see right. They don't want you to change. They think they're marrying this girl right now, the one that they like. And we go into the marriage marrying the potential. Who would want to be married to someone who wants you to be different than you currently are? So out of
Mm.
respect for yourself and out of respect for them, let's not go into relationships with someone's potential in mind. Let's honor, this is the person I'm with, and can I be with this person as they currently are? If they choose to elevate themselves, great. But if this is not a match for me, there's someone better out there that is, and there's someone better who likes them just that way as they are. They don't need to be different if they don't want.
Yeah.
And you do this in every aspect of your life, though. You raise yourself to a level of your new standard because you understand energy so well. You radiate that out and you magnetize it all in. And I mean, she has a wildly successful business, made so much money. She's not just an author, she's a coach. You transform people's lives with what you do. But the thing that makes you stand out is your boldness, your authenticity, and audacity. I love that word.
That's
Because
so
you
good.
do. Yeah, you have the audacity to just be yourself with such truth and integrity and authenticity. And you're brave enough to always go first. 5 or 10 of my favorite things about you is it's just, I'm
Mm.
going to live this path. I'm going to embody everything about myself. I'm going to give myself permission to change it whenever I want. And I would love for you to join me if you want to. And if you don't want to, that's fine. I'm sending you so much love. And if you come at me because you can't deal with it, I'm also sending you love, but I'm going
Truly.
this path and come with me. That's the other thing too, is yes, she's got high level coaching programs. She's got a retreat. When is your retreat? Is it Nashville
We've
in?
got Ireland is September. I do that once a year. And we've got Liberate Her Live, which is a live event happening in November in Nashville, which I'm so excited about.
Yes. First things first, you need to get the book. And we'll put the
Yeah, you got to
links
get
to
the book.
Amazon. For sure, get this
It's
book.
on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Target, Walmart. It's available.
And it's such a good read. She's a phenomenal writer because it's so
Thank
like
you.
I can hear your laugh in your writing, and that's one of my favorite
Yeah,
things. She loves to
love
laugh.
it.
I love how much she laughs. She makes it fun, interesting, and she'll call you out. Like this is not just sit back and read the book and not do shit. She wants you to change your life. And so
Yeah,
get in her world, read her book. I want you to contemplate pleasure, contemplate wealth. I'm thinking we're going to have you back again. I mean,
I'm down. You just let me know
definitely.
when.
I for sure will. I
Let's
have
go.
loved this. I don't want to wrap it up, but we will. So let me see if there was anything else. Okay, but is there anything coming through that you feel like you want to add?
No, I feel like I'll be back. I think we've touched on so much, and I'm excited for this to be in service to anyone who listens.
I love it. Okay, my favorite thing to ask people before we go is considering the woman you are today and what you feel for the future for yourself and your business. How would you end the sentence? I am the one who.
Liberates her.
Yes, in all aspects of life. You really do. You're the founder of Liberate Her.
Giving every woman the opportunity to choose her rich bitch life. Because to choose is to select freely and after consideration, which would mean that if you're choosing it, you're taking responsibility for all of the initiations that are going to come with it, and you're all fucking in.
Go back and say that. To choose is to select.
Select freely and after consideration. So think about it. A lot of people choose things, but they're not actually choosing in their power. It's like they choose it for when it's good, but not for when it's bad. And you got to choose all of it.
Freely and after consideration. That was brilliant. This woman, you will learn so much from her in so many different aspects. I have deep respect for you and such adoration.
You.
Like, I just love you dearly.
I love you. Thank you for
Ah,
having me on.
yes,
So
it
good.
was such a pleasure. And we'll see you guys again. Thank you for listening or watching us. You guys have a wonderful day. And thank you for joining us on the One Podcast.